create art, what is known, the Western form of art, as a way of expressing my conceptual thought processes around particular topics. I'm informed by, my artistic practice is informed by my world, of course, but in particular my Aboriginality and some of the practices that I've been privileged to have been taught, such as weaving a possum skin cloak. This strengthens who I am. I started as a dancer when I was quite young. My nan used to talk to me about shell work and bead work and needlework and things, you know. My nan was a lover of nature and a lover of flowers and a lover of bulbs, and it was something that she passed on to me, this love of nature. So as a person who is Aboriginal, I feel compelled to be able to have conversations around Aboriginality and around political climates and what's happening, and there's lots of thought processes of my own personal journey going from childhood into adulthood, and how I express those processes often and work through those is through my artistic practice, like a lot of Indigenous artists do. And it's just simply an expression and a continuation of my thought processes from within. So how I got started was actually with dance. I fell in love with my culture from a very young age, and from there I never get tired and I never cease to fall in love with my culture over and over again. And I know so little compared to what I would love to know, but already I'm in love with what I do know, and I'm very privileged to have learned it.
Everyone? Good. So many stories.
This lady wants to go next with her sister. Deb with sister.
The reason behind doing a research project like this is to actually give Aboriginal people an opportunity to voice concerns, opinions and thought processes around the revitalisation of traditional practice, the resurgence of traditional practices, the necessary need for access to cultural knowledges, which fits into repatriation of traditional objects, the reinterpretation of historical documents. And when community get to have conversations in a culturally safe space, some of which will not be recorded in this research due to the sensitive nature, which is totally fine. So this project outcome is going to be completely different to what I thought it might have been going in. This is actually a technique that I didn't know prior to 2 hours ago, and it's making rope with lamandra. And I've been privileged to learn how to make rope with stringy bark on country with aunts from Biripai country. But today I learnt making rope with lamandra by an auntie who just happened to be in the neighbourhood today and heard this was on, and she came, and that's evidence to me of this project creating a life on its own, which is really exciting. The project is founded in Indigenous methodology, art therapy, and it's practice-based. So all of the data collection is literally workshops with community. I'm hosting, facilitating, and just calling myself a cultural facilitator, so the women get to experience firsthand, and it actually becomes a community project and it's owned by the participants themselves.
So it's important for me as a young Aboriginal woman to be involved in cultural activities and opportunities in a safe space. So being able to participate in cultural practices that I know that I have the traditional rights to be able to do, that's really important for me, and also as a way to engage with the other local Aboriginal community members in my area.
The research project had 3 data groups. The first project was actually a series of weaving workshops which we held in a number of locations. We did this because we wanted community to be able to have access to the actual workshops themselves, regardless of geographical locations or whether people could travel. And also we didn't want to prevent people from coming because of political alliances. So for instance, we actually had 2 workshops on the West Lake. We had 2 workshops on the East Lake at Butterbar Land Council. We had 2 workshops in at Wallatuka for students and staff, and we had 2 workshops in town. This actually allowed a greater range of Aboriginal women from all over, from Cessnock right up to the Nelson Bay area, to be able to come and participate in the workshops. What this allowed us to do is also to be a part of something bigger. So it was lovely that the women could be a part of their groups from their particular area, and you know, they invested in their 2 workshops for that area. but they all knew and they all responded to the fact that they were working as part of a collective Aboriginal Lake Macquarie Hunter project, and they were all thrilled at that. And I was actually surprised that majority of people raised that as a really important thing. So this actually united Aboriginal women across the Hunter region, which I'm absolutely thrilled about.
What do you think the Mrs. Project was all about?
Individuality. Mrs. is, I think it was individuality, because Cherie had 3 groups. One at Badabar and the uni, and then the Newcastle group, so we could all share and learn, and then the end product was bringing us all together. And as Aboriginal women, we need to be, I don't want to be political, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but we're so stretched and disconnected. That's the word. Mrs. connected us all together, even though I probably know some of the other women from the groups, but I haven't seen them as part of this project. But we're all together there with Mrs., you know, and we're all Mrs. and we're all together. So yeah, that connection, yeah, I love it.
For me, it's been important because I've only just come to the community, and to be accepted and welcomed has been lovely.
I think it's important because we've lost so much in our culture, and for us to be able to bring some of our culture back into our lives and to pass it on to our children and our grandchildren is amazing. And I think that's the reason that I think it is really important to do this. But the main thing was gathering with other elders and other women and chatting and telling stories, which was really interesting.
I helped put the final pieces on Mrs. just a couple of weeks ago, so I'm very proud to have been involved, and it's given me a sense of culture and worthiness, and it's something which I can now pass on to my daughter, which she was a part of Mr. Stingray, and it's something which we've got together, and we're learning, and we're starting a journey together in learning our cultural path. Yeah.
I think it's a part of us being able to connect to culture, and it's a part of keeping our culture alive, and it's a way to actually engage and do culture, and that's something really important to identity. And as mums and women and things like that, that's a really important way to keep us as well as looking after the mob.
You were part of the possum wrap, the
Yes.
Wrapture project, weren't you? So, yeah?
Yes, I was involved with that with Cherie. That was beautiful. I felt very proud to wear that cloak, because I felt my ancestors had done it. I felt the strength there from that, just having the cloak on me. It was just so beautiful, and I'm just so proud that she involved me in that, because I do remember my grandmother and that talking about when they were young kids and they used to get the possums.
Part of the second data group, called Wrapture, was actually 3 families. The first family created this baby blanket, and they are Warramai people, and they're really, really thrilled about this process. This is actually a traditional practice that happened on their country, and then the process of finalising the design. But she's actually just had the baby, so they're in no rush to finalise that design just yet. The second group, the second lady is also a Warramai lady, and as you can see, we're actually halfway through sewing this blanket. She's actually had the baby early, so she's also in the process of finalising the design as well. But in the exhibition space, as you can see, there was actually a third plinth and it was empty. Now that is actually just as significant as the others that have been made, because that plinth represents a family who are in discussion around whether or not it's appropriate for them to participate in this traditional practice. Even though the lady lives here in the Wabakal country, her family is Gomori, and that needs to go back to that group of elders from where she's from to discuss whether or not she can participate. Because it's very important when a woman is pregnant that she is protective of that unborn baby and of the cultural spirituality around participating in traditional practice that may not be from her traditional homelands.
Well, Stephanie again was born on Kamilaroi country, and my sister, yes, she wanted to also consult our elders, which is what we usually do within our groups. And she was saying that a lot of them said no, not to be involved with the possum skin cloaks because it was from a different country, basically.
And do you think your elder sister was protective of Stephanie because she is pregnant?
I think so, very much so. I didn't even consider that, and I'm so glad that my sister did, spiritually. And my daughter felt her spiritual need came to surface straight away, and it's about respecting that. And so it was a decision that was made there and then because of that spiritual link.
Traditionally, possum skin cloaks are actually this size when the child's born at birth, and then as the child gets older, more possum skins are added. It becomes your doona at night, your wet weather gear, like a dry as a bone. And also on this country, in the Wabakal country, it is actually how people are laid to rest. In Australia, possums are protected. So we actually buy our possums now from New Zealand because it's actually a federal policy to cull possums that were introduced over there. The third data group was Wrapture, and it was a photographic series that was done in 2014. In the exhibition, there's a whole wall of faces. There's actually 80 photographs all up. There's only 64 physical photos shown, and there's actually 16 voids. Now, those voids actually represent the statistical number of women involved in the workshop series, learning about possum skin cloaks, mostly for the first time, and giving the opportunity to wear possum skins. Well, those ladies that didn't get their photo taken also didn't wear the possum skin cloaks. Now, this is actually quite appropriate because not all Aboriginal practices are for all Aboriginal people. So it was actually very culturally appropriate for people to elect not to be involved. One of the key aspects of the exhibition was actually symposium. The symposium started at lunchtime and went through to 5 o'clock on the day of the opening. We had 3 panels, and the symposium was actually booked out a week prior to the exhibition even opening. So it was actually something of a lot of interest for a lot of people.
Hi, I'm Jessie England. I'm the director of The Lockup. Transmission is an exhibition that we developed in collaboration with curator Cherie Johnson. Transmission explores the ways that contemporary Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists are responding to a resurgence in traditional knowledges and practices. Transmission includes the works of artists from around Australia whose art making is informed by traditional culture and practices, as well as personal beliefs, understandings and connections to family and country.
It's wonderful to have people here from museums, galleries, artists, cultural people working in community with youth. That's amazing, and that's what we wanted this show to be about. We want it to be about an Aboriginal perspective, just looking at the beauty of cultural knowledges and beautiful practices.
The Transmission Symposium, presented in partnership with the Wallatuka Institute, University of Newcastle, aimed to expand on the exhibition's themes and to explore the complexity of issues that surround contemporary Indigenous art making for artists and others working in the space.
Welcome to Wabakal country. Please enjoy the proceedings after me, and I know that you will. And Uncle Bill, he and I go back a long way.
Can you say yama yama? Maraba? Hello, how are you? And it's good to be here to share one of the oldest, unique and richest cultures in the world.
Warami, Nagaya Susan, Nagaya Grinji Wawunga, Gumida Bianga, Gumida Wayangra, Madamarong Tianaga Aniga, Madamarong Bayalia, Awabakal Guri Pemel. Hello, I'm Susan. I asked to speak to the male spirits, I asked to speak to the female spirits to be able to walk and talk on the land of the Wabakal.
it's really not that hard to partner with the Lockup and Cherie on this event. They have been such passionate and, inspiring people. So from a Wallatuka perspective, we think it's important that we are here to support people like Cherie, who are doing wonderful things for our community and for our culture. And we also think it's really, really important to have these types of conversations and share our knowledge with non-Indigenous people so that we can build awareness around these issues and, and create a community that can support one another.
It's so heartwarming to be able to sit in a room full of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, and the only topic for discussion today was Aboriginality and Aboriginal culture.
So that was the rationale behind this show, is wanting to look at Indigenous artists who are looking at those traditional narratives or inspired by that traditional narrative or those traditional processes, but creating a beautiful contemporary work which talks about, it's a celebration of the beauty and the complexity of sustainability and those things that are at the core of who we are as Aboriginal people. So this is evidence of, I guess, a decolonised show, if you can say that within a lockup jail, which I thought was a really interesting, yeah. So when I got this opportunity, I'm like, yeah, we'll put a show in there. I know which one to put in. So yeah.
Full documentation of each of the 3 symposium panels is available on the Lockup's website. Thank you so much to all who have been involved in this fantastic project.
Today was wonderful. It was a great opportunity to be a part of a large discussion around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander contemporary art. It was a discussion today asking some of the hard questions about what is culturally appropriate and who has authority. It was also a time to celebrate the cultural revival processes and practices that are sweeping our nation and captivating people's hearts and daily lives. And this is a project that is really important. It is a show that's really important. It's actually through an Aboriginal lens. As an Aboriginal curator, I'm really excited to be able to show works that are celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists in a variety of mediums.
On the Friday after the opening, we invited the schools to come into the Lockup Gallery to have their own opening. We had over 130 students attend that opening. We had family come and attend. Each of the schools were awarded a certificate for participating in the project. They got to keep their public art sculpture and they got to have an artist in residence as part of the project in the creation of their sculpture.
And we will support Cherie in anything that she does. My daughter and I were lucky enough to be involved in the Resurgence project with the photos and the possum skin cloaks. So I feel like I'm a part of this with you guys. And well done to all the beautiful works. Thank you to the schools that put their hand up to participate in this. It means a lot to myself as an Aboriginal person and as a parent of Aboriginal students as well, that Aboriginal education is on the forefront for us. Thank you.
You know, the process in which Cherie engages, responds to the students and various department needs, that is no small feat. You know, over 900 students, over 9 schools. It was just amazing. She pulled off, I think we can all agree. It's quite amazing to stand here today and see these amazing art pieces around us. One of my daughters was also part of this, weaving that beautiful dolphin that's over there, and it was a real sense of pride and privilege to me to see her learning the cultural ways of weaving and to produce some of that gorgeous coils over there. And some of you have been involved in this amazing project, so just shine on.
It's really important to conduct research like this and to give community the opportunity to participate in traditional practices. And what we've found through this project with the students being involved as well is a hunger and the desire, but then the impact that it has when they do get an opportunity to participate. Not just the tangible as in what they got to create, but also the intangible about the relationships the resilience that they've built as a result of it, the cultural pride, whether they're Aboriginal or not Aboriginal. And what we're finding is that that hunger, that desire for more, has actually only increased. So it's our role as cultural facilitators and cultural institutions, including universities, to be able to provide these opportunities for communities and for youth to participate in these engaging and enriching projects. And it's just been such a wonderful journey. Like, I think that I had this idea, and so there's lots of things going on in my mind, but in regards to today, with having the women come together from the 4 different locations, it's been really lovely, because in my heart of hearts, I had this romantic idea of how lovely it would be to have a community development project that started with a purpose, but then actually had I kind of hoped that it would have an evolution of itself. And what's happened is it has. And the women have loved it. They've felt value added. And it's been an emotional day. It's actually been an emotional, rich day for lots of people for lots of reasons. And it's wonderful to be a part of it, to be a part of something now that has a life on its own, that is owned by community, and this is about value adding for Aboriginal women, which is really important.
What was your idea? Did you have, let me think about this, in terms of your research, did you have any kind of perceived outcomes, say, of the Mrs. Project and what you were trying to achieve with that project?
So with the Mrs. sculpture, it was a novel idea. It was a nice idea that, you know, we had 9 schools involved in a project, but I wanted one that was the centre point, which was Aboriginal women. And it was Aboriginal women celebrating a process that perhaps they know, and knowing that a few people would actually learn weaving for the first time. I did not expect the results that we had though, because I think 90% of the women that got involved actually learnt weaving for the first time. And I didn't really expect those results, which I think is wonderful, because now more people have learnt their birthright. So it was a project for project's sake, so it had a start and an end, and the goal was to create the 10th sculpture, and that was lovely. And, you know, going into it, I didn't know if anybody would want to be involved. I didn't know if people would catch the vision. I didn't know if people would come to 2 workshops, if they would just come to one and go, oh, you know, or, you know, people, I didn't know if people didn't want to come because of me or the location. I was really conscious actually sometimes people want to be involved in things, but they associate venues or facilitators with a particular land council or something, or family group, and I just wanted to know, you know, if we had multiple locations, would that actually break down some of those barriers? And what I found, it did, but I also found that women wanted to be something bigger than their immediate group, and women are hungry to meet other people. And I kind of thought in the back of my mind, is that something that other Aboriginal women in my age group is looking for, or am I just imagining this? But what I found is that, yeah, everybody was saying the same things. It's so wonderful to be a part of something bigger, to create a sisterhood. Yeah.